tumultuous events of 2000 during the government of Hugo Banzer and with the prospect of imminent constitutional reforms, Sánchez de Lozada found himself cornered, pondering how to design a government model capable of facing similar challenges in the future. The age-old struggle between the virtues of parliamentarism and presidentialism forcefully permeated the discussions he occasionally held with Hugo San Martin and some people from the Millennial Foundation. Particularly, they pointed out the tendency towards paralysis and collapse of presidentialism, seen as a burden for democracy. Political science scholars, in their quest to untangle the threads of authoritarian regimes, often presidential, contrasted these with idealized archetypes of parliamentary democracies. Under this lens, parliamentarism emerged as a form of government that was apparently more democratic and desirable in all aspects. Goni, a pragmatic man, decided to embark on a rigorous study of a reformed version of the presidential system. Known for turning to external expertise in times of crisis, as when he summoned Jeffrey Sachs in 1985, this time, he invited two Spanish luminaries in constitutional law and electoral systems, Juan J. Linz. Confined for a week under the colonial roof of the Su Merced Hotel in Sucre, they conducted intensive sessions of analysis on possible constitutional reforms. The team was rounded off by the presence of Hugo San Martin and Alberto Gasser, whose humorous spark provided a necessary respite amidst the dense discussions. Juan J. Linz, with the meticulousness of an academic, presented a series of criticisms towards presidential systems. This model, he argued, generates political instability and stagnation. Throughout history, numerous military coups have emerged within the framework of presidential regimes. The rigidity of this system can be an obstacle for structural reforms in an era demanding flexibility and collaboration. Also, the fixed-term presidential mandate can foster instability, especially if the president's popularity declines. The excessive personalization of power is another inherent flaw of presidentialism, particularly in contexts of weak political parties. Linz also criticized the presidential succession by the vice president, a figure who might represent a different party or possess discordant personal traits. This was the circumstance that Sánchez de Lozada would experience years later. Each afternoon, as the sun set, dyeing Sucre's sky orange, Goni and his companions retired to their respective rooms, leaving the promise of resuming the work at dawn hanging in the air. But that dawn was elusive for parliamentarism. Despite the intensity of the deliberations and the distinguished wisdom imported from the Spanish professors, the impact of this meeting was limited. The internal forces driving Goni's party, as well as the underlying currents of the political system as a whole, arrived at a bleak but unanimous conclusion: Bolivia was not ready to change its skin and dress in the mantle of parliamentarism. Nevertheless, San Martin insisted on the topic, and on August 4, 2002, in his first speech as a deputy, he stated, "I believe, without fear of being mistaken, that this is the first time that here we have two candidates for the presidency of the Republic, in the Chamber of Deputies, Don Evo Morales, Don Felipe Quispe. I think this is a step towards a more horizontal system, towards a parliamentary system, gradually moving away from the authoritarian centralism of a presidentialism that we have had since the foundation of the Republic." And it is that presidentialism has only worked and works in the United States. In Latin American countries where this system has been implemented, it has generated turbulence and has continually led to coups d'état, and not only in past decades but also in recent cases like Argentina, Venezuela, Peru, etc. In Bolivia, we have had an average of barely one president every 2 years. Of nearly 80 presidents, only about 30% have come into power through formal mechanisms, through democratic rules, through the regulations of this electoral game. The rest have done so through these coups d'état, assassinations, and military revolts, generating this turbulence. In the future, hopefully, all candidates for the presidency will occupy this lower chamber, and from here, as primus inter pares, they may subsequently move on to the executive power. In the years that followed, with the emergence of Evo Morales, hyper-presidentialism expanded enormously, reaching an unprecedented magnitude, like a giant shadow looming over the political horizon, overshadowing everything around it with its imposing presence.